So begin by paying attention to the sitting position. Make any adjustments needed, especially to the position of the spine. And anywhere that's at all tight or uncomfortable, make sure you've got a very nice, firm, stable, comfortable seat. And noticing where there is any tension, perhaps starting from the top. Often the muscles in the scalp and the temples are a little bit tight. Just see if you can notice that. And it may not be all that easy to release that tension, but if you bring attention to that place, and just as you breathe out, see if you can bring that sense of letting go, let the muscles relax. And the muscles of the face, muscles around the eyes and cheeks, around the mouth. Take a few moments to let those ease off. And especially muscles of the jaw. Make sure your jaw isn't clenched. And moving it around a little bit just to loosen up that part. Same with the neck. Again, you can move it a little bit from side to side. Rotate the head slightly just to release any stiffness, any locked muscle patterns. And moving down to the shoulders. We hold a lot of tension in the shoulders. So again, can move them gently up and down, to and fro, backwards and forwards, or just rotate them a little bit. You can do quite a bit of shoulder movement to loosen up that whole area. And continue that process of releasing muscle tension, going down the arms, upper arms, forearms, wrists, hands, fingers, making any slight movements to free up any tightness. Coming back to the chest and the upper back. You breathe into the chest a bit, let the shoulders rise and fall again to bring some freedom of movement into that area. And as the breath rises and falls, just notice little by little how you're able to relax the muscles. A sense of calm, sense of stillness as your body becomes more relaxed. Following the movement of the abdomen as you breathe in and out, so it should move very freely in and out as you breathe. Obviously, you need to tighten the muscles slightly as you contract the abdomen to expel the breath. But otherwise, let go of any tightness that doesn't need to be there, especially on the out breath. And following down through the pelvic region, again, any locking up of the joints there, you can do slight movements of the spine as it sits on that pelvic joint. Continuing down through the thighs, the calves, ankles, and feet. Just again, very slightly moving so that you can let the muscles slacken off and feel your connection to the ground or to your seat, to the chair, or with your feet on the floor. Just that sense of being connected to the earth, having a solid base. Being aware of the breathing. Aware of being embodied, this physical dimension of our existence. And just bring a general awareness of your body. So we have a sense, literally, we sense the position of all our limbs and torso, our head, and all the parts of our body. We can feel where they are, how they're arranged. We have a sense of the sort of solidity of some parts, and the softness of others, sense of warmth and cold. There are feelings of comfort and discomfort. Etc. So all these different physical sensations that are telling us how things are in our body. And we can be aware of the parts of our body so that we have a skeleton, all the bones, the marrow in the middle. We have muscles, we have nerves, blood vessels, digestive organs, heart, lungs, brain, sense organs, the eyes and ears, nose and mouth. So this isn't an anatomy lesson, but it's just to bring a very immediate awareness of the presence of our body, what it's like, what it's made up of, through our direct awareness. And then the various processes in the body. So there's muscle movements, blood circulating, the heart pumping, processes of digestion, processes of sense awareness and thought, and of course the breathing. So just try to keep that background awareness as we focus a little bit more closely on the breathing. So we're going to be following the breath, but just holding that awareness in the background of our body and all its parts and functions. So bring that attention and the focus of your awareness to the breath, following the movement of the air coming into and going out of the nostrils. Notice the sensations that that brings about. Stay with that quite closely, but again, just from time to time, recalling, remembering the container in the body in which this is taking place. We do that for a couple of minutes. And just returning the attention to the breath whenever it wanders off. So now changing the focus again a little bit. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes looking at feelings. So for that span of time, I'm just going to do maybe 2 minutes, no more than 3 minutes. During that time, concentrate on observing whatever feelings are arising. Maybe physical sensations, maybe sometimes things that are more like an emotional feeling or mood, but really just on the spectrum of a pleasant feeling, a neutral feeling, an unpleasant feeling. There may be different kinds, but we're not analyzing, just noticing them as they come and go. Okay, so we're just really identifying, oh, that's another feeling, that's a pleasant feeling, that's a neutral feeling, that's an unpleasant feeling. No more than that. So the main idea is again this direct awareness without going off into a train of thought, thinking about the feeling that just occurred, but being aware of what is the feeling right now in this moment, this present moment. It's about 2 minutes. And shifting the attention again. So again for about 2 minutes, noticing the general state of our mind. So that's kind of like how we're feeling, if you like. So is the mind calm or agitated? Is it concentrated or distracted? Is there contentment or is there some kind of irritation or some kind of upset. Sleepiness, boredness, happiness, peace. These kind of general, how am I feeling? What's my state of mind? Just observe that for a couple of minutes. See what is arising in the mind. And now we will spend a little bit of time just looking at in more detail the contents of our experience, noticing what's going on in our thoughts. Are there thoughts of, for example, we looked at the 5 hindrances, sense desire, or wanting to be somewhere else, wanting this or that. Anger, maybe something, that's hanging around from things that have happened in the day. But these are the things that get in the way of the meditation, get in the way of the practice. Mental excitement, doubt, some kind of thoughts that get in the way. Also what's happening in the sense fields. Are there sounds, internal or external sounds that we're hearing? What are we seeing? Tasting, touching, smelling. Just noticing those sense perceptions. Noticing if the factors of enlightenment are there. So mindfulness, concentration, this factor of investigation of reality, perceiving how things are, tranquility, and so on. Are those states of mind there? So have a look. See what's arising in your mind. What kind of thoughts and perceptions and emotions coming and going. Also bringing awareness of the 5 aggregates. So The form aggregate, the body that we looked at before, feelings, we've looked at those. Mental formations, so these are the intentions and emotions and so on. And then consciousness, awareness itself, and the state of mind, perception. So all these things that we've spoken about, these are the constituents of what we are. So really, this is just taking a moment or two, a minute or two again, just to really observe, take note, everything that's going on in the stream of your awareness. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, images, perceptions, bodily sensations. Again, just noticing, not analysing, not going into a train of thought and losing awareness of the present moment. Or if you do notice that that's what's happening, no judgment. And be aware that all these phenomena, all these moments of experience are impermanent. There's really no permanent feature in all of this. Constant change, coming and going, arising and passing away, moment by moment. All in the nature of dissatisfaction, because we grasp to an idea of something solid and permanent that we want to take hold of and possess. We can never find it. Until we let go of grasping. And underneath all of this persistent illusion of a self, that we grasp to as something solid and permanent, having its own inherent characteristic. But when we examine our experience, we can't find this self-existent I. So just for a couple more minutes, we'll continue watching and looking, and especially noticing those three things: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the absence of a self. And finally, once we have undergone this exercise of mindfully observing everything that goes on in the stream of our experience, we can look at it through the lens, if you like, of these four truths the Buddha spoke. This is the nature of our life, that we are born and that birth is suffering. We age and aging is suffering. We become sick and sickness is suffering. We die and death is suffering. We experience sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, and these are suffering. We experience not getting what we want and getting what we do not want, and this is suffering. These five aggregates, and Buddha called them the five aggregates of clinging. They themselves are suffering when we cling to them, when we grasp to them, when we are under the control of craving. It's this craving that is the root cause of our suffering. Craving for sense pleasure, craving for permanent existence, or even craving for non-existence, extinction. And by letting go of this craving and this grasping, we can become free from suffering. And to be able to let go of craving and grasping, we need to practice the Eightfold Path of right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. The eighth one, actually, right view, this can come at the beginning or at the end. So by understanding these Four Noble Truths, this is right view. And when we practice the Eightfold Path, at the end, we come to a higher level of right view, seeing the truth of things without distortion is what frees us from suffering. As Jesus said, the truth will make you free. Seeing the truth directly in mindful awareness of each moment, we become free. Now you can relax your concentration in your own time. Come back into the space. Yeah, we've kind of done the main thing really in a way. Like we've been through. So for Dawn's benefit, this book goes through. First of all, there's a bit of an introduction to what mindfulness is. This is all based on the original sutra of the 4 foundations of mindfulness spoken by the Buddha in the Pali Canon. And the whole practice based on that, which, he says that for a long time, it wasn't clear that it was really being practiced in the way that it was originally meant. And in Burma at the beginning of the 20th century, there was one particular monk who kind of found his way back to really practicing the exact instructions that the Buddha gave, and has founded a whole movement of mindfulness training in Burma. So that is in a way where all of this, this worldwide revolution of mindfulness, you could possibly say, originates with this one person in about the 1920s who, he was searching throughout Burma until he found a teacher who he said, who was able to give him some guidance. And the teacher just said, go back to the original sutra. So this book is based entirely on that. And it's going through, first of all, just talking about what mindfulness is, giving a bit of an explanation of the exact meaning in the way that the Buddha taught it. And then the sutra goes through, so these 4 foundations of mindfulness: and mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the state of mind, and mindfulness of the contents of the mind. Okay, those 4. So in the meditation, I went through those 4 in turn, and the last one has several different divisions. So the 5 hindrances, the 5 aggregates, the 6 senses, and the 4 noble truths, and the 7 factors of enlightenment, all of those. So it's really just kind of, a whole survey of every aspect of your experience, and noticing those different things as they come up, as they arise. So you can kind of train your attention to look for each of those categories of different kinds of experience that we have. So this is the formal meditation practice, and then the informal part of the practice, the rest of the day, if you like, is just mindful awareness on a slightly more general level of what's happening, being aware of how you're standing or sitting, what you're doing, that it's purposeful, being aware of what emotions and thoughts as they arise, and not being kind of just completely swept away by thoughts, so that you're not aware of what's going on. So there's a kind of systematic training of mindfulness that is explained in a lot of detail, very, it's with immense clarity in this book. I mean, it's a really powerful, I find it one of the best, meditation handbooks, if you like. That's what he calls it. He calls it a handbook of mental training based on
David,
the mind.
is it a similar model to that one that Alan Wallace teaches? Because as you've talked through it, it sounds quite similar to the how he structures. Do you think it'd be fair to say that they've probably originated, the teachings have come from that same?
I think Alan does teach. Sometimes he does teach the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Yeah. I mean, he does. He's got a kind of range of different things that he teaches from the classic sources, but I think that's one of them. Yeah.
I recognise it from when you came to Leeds, just as you were saying it there. Okay.
I think he does. Yeah, he does teach from the same. Based on that same sutra. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe he teaches a Tibetan version, which it's not very much different. It's slightly different. In the Tibetan tradition, it's known as the 4 close placements of mindfulness, and it has more of an emphasis on meditation of emptiness of everything. Here, in terms of this, comes right at the towards the end. Really, is that everything that's arising, we notice it has no, it's selfless, which is a slightly different twist to how emptiness is understood in the Tibetan tradition, but it's basically the same. But anyway, so we've been through sort of these, first 4 chapters, and the last chapter that we looked at is this, going through the 4 objects of mindfulness. So body, feeling, state of mind, and mental content. So that's chapter 3, beg your pardon. So chapter 4 is quite a short chapter, but this is a little bit of a contrast, because here he wants to bring in material that's not specifically spoken about in the sutra, but he's saying it's implied, which is what's the Pali? Well, it is bhavana. He's translating it, culture of mind. So this is, a lot of this is the 4 immeasurables, if you like: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And he says these are not mentioned in this sutra because the people that the sutra was kind of given for, they would know that that's kind of, assumed as a background. So the sutra itself is like a more technical thing about the practice of mindfulness per se. But in the whole of the rest of the Buddha's teachings in the Pali Canon, over and over again, this aspect of these 4, here he says 4 sublime states, or divine abodes of the mind, or the 4 stations of Brahma, sometimes called. So loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Okay. Especially loving kindness. In the Pali tradition, there's a lot of emphasis on that. So the Metta Sutra, which is very beautiful, teaching the Sutra of loving kindness. And here's this quote from the Pali Canon, one of the sutras there. And I'll read it out. I shall protect myself. With that thought, the foundations of mindfulness should be cultivated. I shall protect others. With that thought, the foundations of mindfulness should be cultivated. By protecting oneself, one protects others. By protecting others, one protects oneself. And how does one, by protecting oneself, protect others? By repeated practice of mindfulness, by its meditative development, and by frequent occupation with it. And how does one, by protecting others, protect oneself? By patience, by a non-violent life, by loving kindness and compassion. Okay. So he's saying, you know, there's these two aspects of the practice. It's a bit similar to in the Tibetan tradition, we talk about method and wisdom, isn't it? You know, compassion and wisdom. So we need to, as well as cultivating this mindful self-awareness, which gives us an ability to kind of, you know, it gives us control of our mind, if you like, of our mental states, which sometimes can be completely out of control. So how do we gain control of the mind? Which Ian asks that question early on in the book, you know, talking about the, anyway, yeah, the mind, you know, is so unruly and rebellious, and it's often in control of us. How do we get to be able to control it? Is by the practice of awareness, actually becoming more and more clearly aware of what's actually going on in our mind. Then automatically it comes under control. So this is one side of it. But then the other side is, and that's really, you know, like about our self-directed practice in order to, you know, to not kind of create problems and havoc, suffering, because our mind's not under control. You know, we learn to control it through mindful awareness. But then also we need to train in how we relate to others with loving kindness and compassion, patience, non-violence. Okay. Also in the rest of the chapter, he talks about putting the practice into context in terms of kind of why we're doing it, you know, the effects that we want it to bring about in our life, how the training, you know, helps us to be more in alignment with our real purpose, you know, so that we're not wasting a lot of energy doing things and chasing after things that aren't really of any benefit, because we're more self-aware, we're more, you know, reminding ourselves, oh, hold on, you know, this isn't really what I need to be doing. How we can, through being more self-aware, through being more mindful, we can you know, our life begins to work better, basically, to put it at its simplest. Yeah, and I realized we're a bit short of time because we started late because of how all the problems that arose. So I'm a bit, and I will be, yes, but full disclosure, very, very busy at the moment. And I read through the next chapter because I wanted to be a bit ahead, and I was going to come back and read this chapter. So I haven't actually reread it, which I intended to do. But I'm going to recommend it. I'm going to recommend, you know, reading this. Dawn, if you're starting from scratch, what I would suggest is, if you read the first two chapters, which are quite short, and then maybe skip the third one initially, and have a look at this chapter 4. It's also quite short, but it's also just putting it into context in terms of how we want to use, because I think you already know, you know, a lot about how to actually do the practice. But I think you'll find a lot in this book, putting it into context and how to use it to, you know, to improve our lives. I think there's a lot of real wisdom in this book, and it's very, very down to a practical kind of wisdom. So he's talking about things like, you know, being less subject to extreme attitudes, having a more balanced view of things, being less prone to intervene and interfere in what's going on because we think we've got a better idea. When often if we pause and reflect and think about it, and just bring a bit of mindfulness to it, we think, oh no, it's probably not going to help very much if I jump into this situation and say this. Maybe it's going to make matters worse. Have I had that experience? I certainly have. That kind of thing, the effects that it can have in our life. And it's helpful to kind of look at these and think, because if that's what we're aiming for, or if that's what we're hoping that the practice is going to bring to us, like being more flexible and adaptable, being more simple, less complicated, helping to free us from dogmatic beliefs. All of these kind of things that he talks about, very interesting. These are some of the effects, some of the benefits from the practice. And if we are aware of those, it actually can be quite helpful in how we practice. If we know, oh yeah, it's kind of, we wanted to go in this direction, then this is the way to do it. Okay, well, it's 8:30, and then we started a little bit late, so I don't know what to, but I think probably we should leave it there, because it seems like quite a good moment to pause. But we'll take a couple of minutes to just tune in, and then we'll dedicate the energy. It's always a good thing to do at the end. So just to come back into the meditation sitting position gently. Bring your awareness into the body. Let go of any tight muscles. And just watch the breath for 2 or 3 breaths, just to settle the mind a bit. And it's very helpful to really recognize and appreciate the fact that we spent this time in a positive way, as Ellie was mentioning. Working on bringing more awareness into our life, moving away from uncontrolled, automatic state of mind that we're sometimes in, to a more aware, self-aware, and more, perhaps, more enlightened state of being. So just reaffirming the intention to continue developing our mind in a positive way, for our own benefit and for the benefit of everyone else. So may the positive effects of this meditation bring benefit to myself and others, now and in the future. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings have happiness. May all beings abide in joy and equanimity. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'll be sending out an email tomorrow, and I will see you all next week. Just one before you go. So I have recorded most of it. Yeah, we missed a little tiny bit there. But you know, if there's anybody, it's come up a couple of times, people don't want things that they've said to be on the recording. So if there's anything that you don't want, speak now, or if you're happy for it to go up onto the YouTube channel, everything we've discussed. I can't hear you, Ellie. You're on mute.
Sorry, it's the one where only people from this course can hear, isn't it?
Well, I can do it like that. I can just chop out, because I only gave a fairly short bit of talk tonight, so most of it was discussion. But I can put that on a separate video that only this group can see. Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
That well, for me, that's what I'd prefer.
Okay. I'll do
Sure. Yeah.
So there'll be 2 bits of discussion, I think, and then a short talk in the middle and the meditation. But the meditation might be the most useful bit anyway.
Oh, do you mean like sometimes you put like some of it on the main channel where everyone can see it, you mean?
The meditation and my talk I will put on the main channel, but everything else, where anyone else is talking, I'll just put only for this group.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Guys.
Good night. Have a good week.
Nice to see you all.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
Thank you.
See you, everybody. Take care.